everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and I'm here today with a design team post for Scrapping for Less. Today I will be using the November 2018 Flavor of the Month Club card kit to create 5 different cards. I used 3 of the kits. I didn't get into the kind of extra one because I do have the banana split level. And I did use some of the sentiments off of that stamp set, but I didn't use the images. And then I didn't use the Santoro Girl one, even though I wanted to, but I just didn't have time to get into that one. So these first 2 cards I made with the first collection, and I just absolutely love that stamp. And I had stamped it quite a few times when I first got it, and I was kind of playing around with it, so that's what I'm using here. I'm just going back and using the images that I had already stamped. That's one of the reasons why I like to stamp a lot of images, and sometimes I color them, sometimes I don't, but they're kind of ready to go if I want to just sit down and start making a card, as opposed to having to do the whole process of coloring and stamping and everything else. So for me, that's what I like to do, because it kind of gives me, I guess, a little head start sometimes if I don't have a ton of time because of work or life or whatever's going on. This paper in here was just absolutely beautiful, and I really just loved working with it. It was super sparkly, and I really enjoyed that. Now, one of the things I did, because I simply stamped these images on plain white cardstock, is I used shimmer spray on the plain, on the, just the regular cardstock, so that it would kind of match the image, or I'm sorry, the papers that I was using, so that was as sparkly as the rest of it. And you kind of see there, I wanted to heat emboss that sentiment on the black cardstock for that's what I was going to use the sentiment for, and I ended up sticking my finger in it. So I just decided that I was done with that, and I wasn't going to attempt that again, at least that day, and to try to mess with it. So I just kind of decided on what my card design I wanted to be. I don't have a lot of the paper left, so I was trying to use all of the pieces that I have, and I kind of came up with something with that. So right there, yeah, right there, that's where I stick my finger in the heat embossed, after I heat embossed it in the powder. So then I just end up going back and using the white for the sentiment. And I did pop up that sentiment, but I did not pop up anything else. There's quite a few layers on there, and this paper is pretty thick, so I just ended up doing that. I, of course, had to go back in with my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen, because even though I had sprayed it with the shimmer spray, I wanted even more sparkle on there, and that's what I was doing with that. I then decided, in the kit we got these little butterflies, and I wanted to use the little butterflies. For this first one, there was, when it was put together or whatever, there was quite a bit of glue that kind of stuck out of the side, so I wanted to use that other side of it. So I just kind of popped off the body of it, the butterfly, and then I just used it that way. So that was the first one. The second one, as you can see, my scraps are getting smaller and smaller, and I'm saving pretty much every little piece from this collection in case I can figure out a way to use it later. So I was going through again, just trying to figure out. I had that last stamp that was already stamped. Again, I do end up spraying that with the shimmer spray, and I'm actually putting up a video on how I make the shimmer spray, because someone had asked me in one of the previous videos that I made when I used shimmer spray, and I make a do-it-yourself kind. So I'm going to be popping that video up today as well. So if you go over to my YouTube channel, you will be able to see it there. So here I was going through, I'm trying to use, as I've said numerous times, that I'm trying to use the ephemeras and different things that are coming in this kit. So I end up using that piece that says "You Are So Loved," but I didn't want it to be like a tag, so I just ended up cutting it out. And I also sprayed that with the shimmer spray. And of course I also go in at the end with the Spectrum Noir Sparkle Pen on the image itself at the end of this. So here I was just playing around, figuring out what I wanted it to look like and the pattern that I wanted to use. I end up deciding on this pattern. I do end up cutting the pieces about 1.5 inches, and then there was one that's slightly smaller. I cut it all 3 pieces together because I wanted to make sure they were the same size. But instead of layering them over each other like that, I just end up cutting them, like I said, about 1.5 inches and then butting them up against each other. And then, like I said, that last one's a tiny bit smaller than the 1.5 inches because that would be the 3 inches, so it's about 1.25 inches for that last row. And going through, I have, like I said, a little teeny bit left of this paper that I'm trying to use and that I absolutely love. So here I'm just putting the final pieces together, and then I do end up putting a couple sequins on this one. And I wanted to make that even smaller because I thought that it was just a little bit too large. And again, the only thing I popped up was the sentiment on there, and then I used that second butterfly that came in the kit with everything else. I had that was a little bit crooked, so I had to go back in there and change that up a little bit to make sure that it was straighter. And of course, here I am having issues with my glue with that real thin nozzle again. And I've just been using a long straight pin to kind of get in there and clean it out, which has been working okay. But like I said, I think I just need to get in there and soak it and really clean it out, so hopefully I can have it stop doing that so much. And again, like I said, here I am with my sparkle pen, just because, like I said, that paper is just so sparkly that I wanted the image to kind of meet that same standard of sparkle. Now here is the You're So Dapper kit, and this was an image, like I said, I already had stamped. This is very simple coloring. I just use grays and blues because that's kind of the coloring that's in the paper, and so I wanted to stay with that color scheme. I end up just cutting these out with, or fussy cutting them out just with the scissors, because there was just, like I said, it's just a really simple image, so it was pretty easy to cut out without any big issues or problems. One of the things that you'll see me doing in a few minutes when I'm putting the card together is I decided that I wanted to heat emboss the sentiment onto a strip of the paper, and it was a black strip, and so I wanted to use the white embossing powder. And this paper is very, very slick, and I end up not using the stamp platform to do this, but I was lucky that I didn't end up screwing it up because it's so slippery. It's very easy to kind of slip when you're stamping down with it. So my suggestion would be to use a platform if you can when you have it. And then here I am, just like I said, trying to figure out what I want to do with this exactly and what type of patterns I'm trying to go with and the colorings that I want to go with. And I decided to use that gold piece to put the images in, and I'm going to create a circle there, and then which pieces I wanted for the insides and the outsides and all of the different panels and strips there. So that black one, that black strip there, is what I end up putting the sentiment on, and like I said, that's very, very slick, and I was very lucky that I didn't screw it up. But I don't end up using any of the sequins or anything with this. I was trying to keep it a more masculine card, and I don't know, I just think when you put a lot of sequins and stuff on it, it ends up being a more feminine card. But I used my crocodile there to kind of round out the edges of that, and I used one of the card bases that I created from the kit with the cardstock that came with the kit. And then I fishtailed those few strips there that I had. This is where I was very daring and decided to do the stamping without a platform, and it worked out, so I was very lucky. But it is one that can end up, because it's so slick, that you can kind of slide if you press too hard on the paper and end up smudging your stamped image. So I just ended up heat embossing that, putting that off to the side, and then just piecing the card together. I think this is a great stamp set for some masculine cards. I know I'm always looking to try to make some more masculine cards because a lot of the ones that I do end up being more feminine cards. I like the fact that they give you a lot of different options with these kits. And I was kind of doing this together because I wanted to figure out exactly where to place that sentiment strip so that it was underneath the circle. But that is that card. And then now we're getting into the other two cards. This stamp set is the Bloom stamp set, and I had already had one that stamped image that was already colored. So that was just sitting in there, and I do end up using that on one. But like I said before, I'm trying to use up the extra pieces of different things, and these are little wooden objects that you got with, they're like wooden doilies that you got in this kit, and I wanted to use these as well. I thought about coloring them because I watched someone at some point color the wooden images, and I thought that was kind of a cool idea, but with the coloring of the paper that came in this kit, I just thought the wood color was actually really good with it. And this is a pretty simple design, and I ended up not putting a sentiment on the outside of the card. I just left it kind of as it was. I thought that looked really cool how it was, and I didn't want to kind of add a lot of different things to it. I just kind of liked how it looked. I liked the flower on the bottom, and I didn't want to take away from any of that. I added a couple sequins just on the side, and then I glued down the wood pieces, but I did end up putting a sentiment on the inside so that there still was, some type of sentiment on for the card. But what I ended up doing, because I already had it all pieced together, and obviously it would have been hard to stamp with that and making sure that it was straight and everything, I ended up using the platform and just put it in upside down. And then I stamped the sentiment on the inside of the card. So that one is the first one I made from this kit or collection. And then the next one, I was just kind of looking at everything, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I did end up using the stamped image that was already colored. So that ended up working out well because it ended up being a really quick card because I already had the image completed. So here I was just kind of going through all the papers to see what I had left to decide on what exactly and how I wanted to put this together. I thought some of the images, some of the patterns on the pattern papers when it was put together was just a little too busy, so I ended up trying to figure out which ones I thought went the best together without looking too busy. And that is one of the images that I ended up coming up with. And like I said, I thought that the wood looked really good with these papers, just like in the previous one. So that wood grain paper I thought worked out really well with it. So for me, I think what I like the most about the Scrapping for Less kit is I like the idea of the 4 collections, and I like the idea that I'm not getting a ton of one single type of product, that I'm getting a lot of different things that I can try out and use, and if I really like it, then I can get some more, and if it's not something that I really would like or use again, then I can say I tried it and move on from there. I end up heat embossing a sentiment onto the wood strip, and I end up using a rose gold embossing powder when I heat embossed it. And on the card in the video, it's kind of hard to see the sentiment, but when you have the card in front of you, you really can see it. It actually comes out really well, and the rose gold goes kind of perfect with the tones that are in the pattern paper. I did use the crocodile to kind of round out the one side of the panel that's going to go on the front, and then I also used it for the panel that's going to have the image on it so that that kind of matches. I should have heat embossed this before I stuck it on the card because that would have made more sense so that my card didn't warp or anything, but I tried to make sure I did it quickly and didn't have a problem with it. And then to end up, I just kind of piece it all together. I butt that up right against the two pieces that I added on there for the panel that I was going to place the image on. I end up putting a few sequins on there, and that is about it for this card. I hope everybody enjoyed the cards that I made today. I want to thank everyone for stopping by, and if you want to pick up this kit, I know they still have a few over at Scrapping for Less, so you can go to www.scrappingforless.com, go to the monthly card kit area, and you will be able to pick yours up. So thank you for stopping by, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.